There is an election in Israel. The day today was sunny, not rainy, although the sky above Israel was not cloudless. And the Israeli citizens put in to vote. And the most important indication so far that there is a surge in voter turnout. So here is the table of the previous elections turnouts from 1973 up to 2021. As you can see, the last turnout, and if you should see at left bottom of the table, was 67.2% at when the ballot boxes close. That is at 10 o'clock. What we see now is surge increase of about 5-6%. So by the 8 o'clock in the evening, according to the Central Election Committee, the voter turnout was 66.3%. If we compare this with the results in the previous election, it's a second column from the left. It was only by 8 o'clock, it was only 60.9. So this is the highest result since the election campaign of 1999. And after that, you can see really that numbers fall. But now we return to more or less the similar result to the or similar voter turnout to what happened in the late 90s. So again, it's almost 4.5 million voters that voted by 8 p.m., which is 66.3%, which is 6% higher than the previous than the voter turnout in the previous election. This is a very important. Data because the two sectors of society in which voter turnout tends to be relatively low are the Arab citizens of Israel and the voters of the towns where the right-wing parties, especially Likud and Shas, get most of the votes. Which means that if there is an increase in the percentage of voters, this may benefit the right-wing parties, or it may benefit the anti-Netanyahu bloc because of the share of the Arab voters. However, at the moment, there are signs that the main increase in the votes is in the Jewish sector. So in the Arab sector, there were until now probably the surge was not that big, but it may change actually after 8 o'clock. Why after 8 o'clock? Because the Arab voters tend to come to the polls late in the day. The important thing to take a note of is that the exit polls are based on the results up to 8 o'clock, although the pollsters make some adjustments to the results. Nevertheless, the exit polls may miss the dynamics of voter attendance after 8 o'clock or between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. But at the moment, it looks like the right-wing party, the Netanyahu bloc, are going to benefit from this high voter turnout. We will see soon whether this will actually find expression in the exit polls. Okay, so what's going to happen now? How do we follow the results? At 10 o'clock Israeli time, So in 20 minutes, all major TV channels will announce their projections of the result based on the exit poll. So exactly at 10 o'clock, we'll be able to say what the indications are about the final results. The final results may differ slightly from the exit poll results, although it's not always clear to what direction. In several election campaigns in the past, especially in 1996 and in 2015, the results gave too much votes to the left, when in fact the right ones. So, for example, 1996, Prime Minister Netanyahu was the one who won the election, although the exit poll projected the victory for Shimon Peres. And 2015, there was a tie, according to the exit polls, between two major parties, Likud and Labour, 24 seats, when in fact Likud got 60 seats. In the recent elections, actually, the bias was a bit. The bias in exit polls was a bit more towards the right. So the final results actually turned out to be worse for Likud than the projections of the exit polls. So exit polls actually good at catching the ballot box of those who vote at the addresses. But there is a procedure called double envelopes for people who can't, for some reason, vote where they are registered. There, sometimes soldiers, the diplomats in other countries, prisoners, and also disabled people who can't travel to place where they're registered. And in order to protect their anonymity, they put the envelope with the party for which they vote within a larger envelope in order to check that they didn't vote twice. That's why it's called double envelope. So only after these votes are counted, so it can be tomorrow or even the day after tomorrow, will we be able to know the final results. However, the results, the actual results, already begin to pour in within about 2 hours after the voting ends. And now I'm glad to introduce here my boss, actually the head of the Department of Political Science in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Professor Gideon Rad. Good evening.
Good evening, Ephraim. I'm not your boss. I'm the head teacher of our joint kindergarten.
Yeah, we can also say that. So I was just talking about the importance of a very high voter turnout that we see according to the election committee. What's your feeling on what's your estimate about what's going to happen?
First of all, if this high rate of turnout is true, this is amazing. I mean, in all of the books you read about voters fatigue, and in Israel people seem to be trained to vote now. They vote more and more. I mean, in the previous elections we had a slight decline, but now we have really very high levels. And if it's correct, so it's higher than the last 20 years. We saw a decline. The decline in Israel in turnout was about 10% from the 90s to the beginning of 2000s. And now it seems that we are not back to the past, but we really closed some of the gap. And I must say this is an amazing thing. And in terms of democracy, this is an improvement. At the end of the day, turnout is important. Whoever turns out, it is important. It's part of the celebration. Now, for which party is it good? That's the question. Is of course who is leading in this turnout? Is it the Arabs that went to vote? Is it the voters of Likud that Netanyahu claimed that they didn't vote and therefore he didn't win? That's the main question. And then, of course, we don't know whether these people that usually do not vote and now vote actually vote as they are expected. Maybe the Arabs that didn't vote would vote for parties we would not expect. The same can be said about the voters in the places where most people vote Likud. Maybe they vote for other parties and they didn't want to go to vote for some reason. But so we should be patient. We should wait. I really don't have a clue. But if we are looking at other countries, thinking about it once again, if it is really in the more Jews are voting, it may probably help the Netanyahu and his bloc. And if more Arabs are voting, it will help the other bloc, even though two of the three Arab parties are not part of the bloc. They are not affiliated with any bloc.
But there is one specific feature for this election which paradoxically may benefit the right, even if the voters who come to vote the left wing. And the reason is that all the party who are at risk of not passing the threshold belong to anti-Netanyahu camp. So it may happen that if actually more left-wing voters come to the ballot box, by actually coming, they can put one of the left-wing parties down the threshold. So that's a paradoxical situation.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It can happen if the votes. You're right. If the votes would not be spreaded more or less in a way that will benefit these parties, you're absolutely right. It can also influence this element. But the electoral threshold is part of the rules of the game. It was there before the elections, and the politicians that ran in these elections can only blame themselves if they didn't made the alliances, or maybe even decide not to run in order not to waste votes. People cannot blame the threshold. The threshold is there. The threshold is not against the left, not against the right, not against the Jews, not against anyone. The threshold is just an arbitrary law. And I must say something. Many people are saying that the threshold, it's not okay, etc. Okay. What I tell my students at the beginning of every time that I talk about the threshold, that if they want to have complete representation, we need that the parliament would be equal to the size of the population. Because even if we don't have a threshold, they are very the fact that we choose candidates 120, 200, what's the number? It's a reduction, and there is a natural threshold out there. Okay, unless of course the Israeli parliament would consist of 6.5 million people. Maybe it's a good idea, but not right now.
Sometimes, observing the Israeli society, I do think that it's what we actually have. We have such a parliament.
I'm not sure about it. People in Israel, many people, more than many other places, are interested in politics and have some knowledge about politics. But I think that most people, let's talk about me. Okay, I'm professor for political science. I don't have any dream of becoming a member of parliament. I'm very happy where I am. Okay, and I appreciate the politicians that do the hard job of sitting in parliament, of sitting in government, etc. I don't appreciate all of them, because some of them do not do their job properly, but those who does, I really appreciate them. And I think that they should also appreciate themselves and not oust themselves every few months and take us to another elections.
Yeah, sure. And actually, regarding threshold, it's only true that it may play out different in different situations. For example, there was election of 1992 when the threshold was lower. It was 1.5 as far as I remember, but it was increased then. Before that, it was even lower. And then it benefited the left because, for example, one significant right-wing party didn't cross it here, and this led to the victory of the left. So sometimes it can, but in this specific election, the parties that are in danger of not crossing it are all on the left. That's just a specific situation of this election.
Yeah, you're right. Two times in Israeli history, the threshold was raised with the support of the right. That I remember 92 and 2015, when Lieberman was considered to belong to the right, and the result was the opposite. It only hurt right-wing parties, or even led to the creation of the joint list, the Arab list. So that's right. And in these elections, you're right. This hurt most of the times. It is a danger for the left, but you have to remember that Ayelet Shaked is there, and it seems that she's also going to waste 1 or 2% probably, as much as the polls show, of the votes of the right. So that's it's a question. And also you have to remember, in previous elections this danger was also there, and the votes were magically spreaded among the leftist parties. They were even quite far away. The only one that we thought that didn't pass the threshold was Mansour Abbas, and then we discovered something we should have known, that the pollers cannot poll the Bedouins that live in places, including non-recognized places. So and he got a lot of support from them.
And actually, you mentioned Mansour Abbas, and now another political scientist from our department joins us, and it's Yanal Jabarin, who is also now who is exactly now at the Ram Party headquarters, waiting for the results of the election. So I invited Yanal just to tell us a bit what's going on now among the Arab voters, and what the atmosphere among Arab parties.
Hi, Ephraim. Hi, Gedon. Now, Ibrahim Hijazi give us the last statement 10 minutes before the end of the vote, the close of the Kalpis. He calls all of the Arab people community in Israel to go and vote, to be the people who may get the difficult situation if they get the most mandats after the Midgam, the survey we will take more about 7 minutes, and Ram is not see the situation good for them. They all of them they talk to us, and they was angry about the ballot. All of the votes of Ram go to ballots with a solidarity and empathia, and all of this. It's much angry of Ram and Mansour Abbas. He just in the last hour call of the Arab people for about 4 statements, who calls the Arab people to go and vote for Ram. We are now about 50% almost in the Arab community people, and we can see the majority of the Arab people still not go to the Kalpis to vote. But we will see about in the last elections in 2021, we see more people to go to and voted this time, and this time we will see 50%. But in the majority people, in the majority Jewish people, they also go and voted, and this is why all of the parties of the Arab people are not feeling good about the situation now.
Okay, Yanal, did I understand it correctly that some Ram voters in the past they voted for ballot. Is it true?
Yeah, is it true? They go with the empathy and the regish feelings.
Because they're afraid that the ballot will not cross the threshold, so they wanted to help it, right?
Yeah, and also the ballot campaigns was a personality about the Sam Abu Shahadi face. His face is we see it also in the campaigns and the all of the Shilti Khulsot, and we see it just him in the media, television, in talking with us in Hebrew and Arabic, and we see him also in May 2021 in the demonstration and what happened last year in Israel, and this is go like Ben-Gvir, the teenagers go to Balad, also the teenagers go to Ben-Gvir.
Okay, you said it about 50% the voter turnout. How much higher it comparing to the last election?
Last elections we have 44.7%, and now we are going to more 50%. But the Jewish majority people in Israel also go and voted more like 30 years ago, from the 1999, and this is it's not good situation for the people, the parties in Arab people. We see there is a situation that two of the parties not going above the
threshold,
or the three of them will go above. This is what we see.
Okay, thank you, Anal. Was very interesting. So in a few minutes, we'll see what the preliminary results are. Thank you for your
Thank you.
And thank you, Professor Raut, also for your contribution. And now we'll just what remains is to wait for exit polls in 3 minutes.
Yeah, you just have to remember that the exit polls are, if they will be closed, you'll have to wait for a lot of time because previous election, the exit polls, I mean, this was something that I wouldn't forget because the exit polls used to, in the past, they used to lean to the left. In the last election, they leaned to the right, actually. So, and I was surprised because it was different. And so the exit polls are just exit polls. We'll have to wait for some time to see if there is a change, unless once again the results are clear cut. So somebody will make a victory speech tonight, which might not be a victory speech in 3 days, or maybe it will. Nobody knows.
So let's wish success to all the parties, as Shamir used to say about Iraq-Iran war.
Yeah, although it's impossible. It's a zero-sum game. Okay, thank you, Ephraim.
Thank you, and have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye. So we just heard a report from the Arab party Ram that appeals to voters, don't vote ballot, vote for us. Ballot is a very radical anti-Zionist, but also middle-class party in Arab community, and it was at the risk of not crossing the threshold because it's run separately. But what I heard from the information is actually the increase in Arab community. It's 44 versus 50, more or less the same as it's in among the Jewish voters, which will moderate advantage of the increase among right-wing parties. So that's that situation in a moment. In a few seconds, we will know already the results of the exit polls, and I will make a short break. And after the short break, I will be back. I will try to type myself the first results, and then we'll see what's going on. Okay. Okay, I'm back, and the major TV channels announce their projections, and all of them, without exception, predict small majority, but a majority to the parties of Netanyahu camp. So two channels predict that it will enjoy the majority of 62 seats, and the third channel predict that it will have the majority of 61 seats. I put here the results from Camille Fuchs, who polls for Channel 13. So let's analyze these specific results. Most of these results are very similar, but let's go with the Channel 13. So according to it, the leading party is Likud with 31 seats, and which is now the major opposition party, and Yesh Atid of Lapid, Yair Lapid, gets 24 seats. So the Netanyahu bloc consists of four parties. Party to the right of it, which is a religious Zionism, it got it's projected to get 14 seats. Likud 31, then two ultra-Orthodox party, Shas 10 seats, and Torah Judaism is 7 seats, and that's together give 62. What's important to pay attention to is a relative success of the religious Zionism party, although some predicted that it even get more, like 16, 17. It's actually possible because this party enjoys popularity among young voters, and therefore it may get more seats after the soldiers' votes are counted. Yeah, so we have here 62 seats. If we look at anti-Netanyahu camp, there are very interesting things. First, we have here only 4 seats for Israel, our home. That's Israel Beitenu, it's party of Avigdor Lieberman. It's just above the threshold. And two other parties which are above the threshold, Meretz and Hadash. Hadash is an Arab party. And this means that the final results may actually put at least one of them down. It's interesting that the projections for Israel Beitenu were higher in service before the election. Was estimated it would get 5 or 6 seats. 4 is a relatively low result, and I have 2 explanations for this result. If this prediction is true, and if Lieberman lost some voters, this means that he lost some Russian-speaking voters who didn't like his kind of pro-Putin stance. And it's important to notice that in the recent days, the days that preceded the election, many Ukrainian pundits actually described Lieberman as a pro-Putin agent of influence. And because many Russian-speaking Israelis watch these Ukrainian channels, or they get the information, this may have influenced their decision. Meretz is a left-wing, left liberal party with a bit of Arab presence, and it's projected with 40 seats, so it's a relatively bad result for it, as well as Hadash. What we now heard about Balad from Yanal, that there was a surge in support for Balad among Ram voters. But Ram, according to this poll list, get 5 seats, and the ballot doesn't cross the threshold. So if the results remain as they are, it's likely that Benjamin Netanyahu will be the one to form the next government. However, it's not clear how easy this task will be for him, because some parts of the faction of religious Zionism on the far right will not make his life in this respect easy. So, okay, I will now look for a few seconds at the result of other exit polls for other channels, and we'll see if there is anything interesting there. Okay, so if we look at the exit poll of channel 12, it gives to Meretz a bit more, 5. It means that Meretz in a safer position, but both Hadash and Israel Our Home remain with 4 seats. That's a prediction of channel 12. And the prediction of channel 11 is almost identical to that of channel 12. It again gives Hadash and Meretz only 4 seats, but it gives a bit more to the party of Victor Lieberman, Israel Our Home. It gives it 5 seats, but it gives less to the Labour Party. Again, 5 seats. So the exit polls are quite similar, and all of them say that at the moment the Netanyahu camp has a slight advantage of 1 or 2 seats in the Knesset, means the coalition of 61 and 62. And there is a number of parties who are still a bit at risk of not crossing the threshold, especially the party Hadash, it's an Arab party, and maybe Meretz, and maybe Israel Beitenu. So these are the results so far. So what's next? Within 2 hours, the first result will begin to appear, and to follow live results, I recommend you this. Website. It's official website of the Israeli election committee, Central Election Committee. So as the results begin to arrive, they will put them in here at that site. Okay. But there is an interesting project initiated by the head of the Kohelet Policy Forum, Moshe Koppel, who is also a computer scientist, and he devised a prediction system for the results based on the analysis of the early results. Early results come from more or less the same small constituencies within the first or two first hours after the election, and it's about 2% of the real vote. And on the basis of this, only these 2%, Moshe Koppel devised a system which predicts the results of the election. And then you can see here on the banner the link to the site of this prediction system. And I must say that, as far as I remember, when it was first tried in the previous election, that is in 2021, its prediction turned out to be somewhat more accurate than the prediction of the exit polls. So I also recommend you this site. This site, and again the website of the Central Election Committee. So at the moment, things look like the right wing will enjoy a majority in the next parliament, and Benjamin Netanyahu is likely to be the next prime minister. But it already happened, not in the previous election, but one election before. I think that the exit polls also projected a very narrow victory to Benjamin Netanyahu, although less than in these results. And then actually, in fact, his majority was reduced and became minority of 59. So nothing is final yet. This is only exit polls results. Now, when are we expected to get the final result? The final results will arrive only after the Central Election Committee will count the double envelope votes. And in the past, it was a matter of night and then the next afternoon. Now, because the amount of this envelope increased, because there is more possibility for disabled people to vote, or those who claim to be disabled, then it takes more time for the committee actually to vote all the voters. The things may last until tomorrow evening, or even until after tomorrow. So we'll see. And now Moshe Koppel, the man who devised this system, joins me, and I would like to ask you to tell us more about what the system is, how it works, and any other idea you may have about this election.
Okay, thanks, Ephraim. Really nice to be here. So you want me to tell you a little bit about my prediction system?
Yeah, and then maybe you make yourself your own intuitive prediction on the basis of exit polls if you want. But first, we want to hear about your system.
Okay, so the idea is as follows. The early reports come in and they tell you about different areas what the split of the vote was. It kind of comes in dribs and drabs the whole night. There were about 11,000 different with kalpiot voting stations, and each one reports separately. So what happens is if you have the results of a particular polling station, right? And you know the results in the previous election, which was just a year ago, you could try to figure out a mapping from one to the other. That is, the people who voted for Yamina last time, who did they vote for this time? How did their votes split up, right? Now, each data point that you get, every polling station that reports, is a data point, right? And if I get, say, in the first couple of hours, I see 200 different polling station results, that's 200 data points that allow me to zero in on how each party in the previous election distributed its votes this time. So it's giving me a matrix, right? Once you know that matrix, once you've learned it, you can apply it to every polling station, even the ones that haven't yet reported, right? Mm-hmm. So I need about 200 polling stations. That's 200 constraints, basically, to have a pretty good idea of what the matrix looks like. It tells me how the votes distributed, and then I just apply it. And last year I did it, and it was very accurate. I was able to say after 2% that Ram was gonna get in when all the other stations were saying nothing of the sort for many hours after that. But like all statistical tricks, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Moshe, do you hear me?
Yes, I am with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just told the viewers before you joined that as far as I remember, your predictions were much more accurate than the exit polls last time.
They were. Yeah. Mostly with regard to Ra'am and the Rishiyam HaMishutefet, the joint list. Okay. With regard to those two, we were way better than them. The other ones were kind of a toss-up. Both the TV stations and my method were ±1 on any given party.
Okay. By what hour do you expect your prediction to be made this time?
Okay, so it's hard to say. I'm totally dependent on the results getting reported. I'm hooked in directly and automatically to the true results. So the minute they come in, my system automatically updates. Our rule is that we don't make a prediction until 2% of the polling stations have reported. Last year, that happened at 1 o'clock.
Do you then adjust it, or it remains like it is?
What the system
Like,
is?
like the systems continues to analyze the results, or you
It
just say with
continues.
this?
No.
Okay.
It continues. At 2%, it gives its first prediction. As more and more polling stations report, I have more and more constraints, and I just use those constraints to refine my matrix, and I update accordingly.
Okay, so regarding this, I think we understood. Now, just if you have any words about the exit polls, now we have
Right.
this exit polls. We give a clear but slight majority to the
Right.
Netanyahu camp.
Right. Obviously, 61-59 based on exit polls aren't gonna, that's not very reliable, right? Plus minus one in either direction is. But I have seen some of the raw data. I won't say whose raw data I saw, but I did see raw data about polls, order of magnitude of 10 to 20,000 participants. And I did a deep dive into it, breaking it up into neighborhoods or cities and seeing the mapping. And based on that, I think the most interesting thing that I could tell you is that surprisingly, Lieberman is really just above the threshold. Lieberman could actually go under the threshold. This is a possibility that nobody talked about, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
I actually myself talked about it, not in this program, but I thought that this might happen, although because it contradicts the recent polls, that surprised me today, but I assume that it will be so. And my explanation was, of course, that his pro-Putin stance really damaged him among Russian-speaking constituency.
That's certainly possible. I thought there was another factor, which is that his constituency is mostly right wing, and he did go into this government with Ram and Meretz and Avoda. So it's certainly possible that many of his voters abandoned him simply because of that. If you notice, the three parties that self-identified as right wing that went into this coalition were Yamina, which broke apart, and New Hope Tikva Chadasha, which had broken apart and basically just kind of joined up with Gantz's party. So it was kind of surprising that the third right-wing party, so-called right-wing party that was in the coalition, namely Lieberman, wouldn't suffer the same fate. So
I think the reason why it didn't suffer the same fate is that because its base is not political. So basically, it's mainly elderly former Soviet Union immigrants who just who simply believe in Lieberman. But I think the only thing that could take them or some of them away was Ukraine war.
Sure.
That's I think because exactly after this war began and Lieberman made several statements which were regarded as pro-Putin, then we already observed some slide in his popularity and among the voters.
Right. That's certainly plausible.
Okay, so now what remains is to wait for the results, and I'm sure that your system will predict them the best. And thank you for joining me and telling us.
It's been my great pleasure. It's been my great pleasure, Ephraim. Okay, have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So just to summarize again the results of the exit polls. This is the exit poll of Channel 13, but all the exit polls are more or less similar. So in this exit poll, we see that Likud is the largest faction, as was expected, actually, 31 seats. That the Netanyahu bloc of 4 lists on the top is expected to receive 62 seats, which is the absolute majority. That is enough to form a coalition. And we see that there are several parties, especially the party of Lieberman, Israel Beitenu, Israel Our Home, which is at risk of not crossing the threshold. So thank you for being with me this evening. And now I'm going to finish this stream, and we'll meet tomorrow night again at 9:30, where we'll try to analyze the real results, and hopefully by tomorrow evening we already know these results. So have a good evening, and until tomorrow.